We're going to be talking waterborne illnesses tomorrow on the program. I know that's very exciting stuff, isn't it? Especially if you end up with one. Oh. Well, we'll be chatting with one of the physician assistants from Trip Family Medicine tomorrow morning between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and that's the topic because a lot of people are going to be in the water with Memorial Day week. Well, it will get warmer. I mean, some of you, it'd be like the polar bear plunge, but we are headed towards summer. So that's one of the reasons we'll talk about this. We'll also, we need to update you. Dr. Tripp, of course, is on his way to Nicaragua, and he's on a mission to Nicaragua, a medical mission, along with some of his family members. And we've been reminding you that if you'd like to hire his sons and have them do some yard work for you, this will help them pay for their trip. And so you might want to give his office a call. We'll talk a bit more about that tomorrow. We want to point out Trip Family Medicine is located on Fillmore Street in Twin Falls. And remember, life's too short not to feel good. So I was listening this morning to some of the comments about the presidential political race, which of course is getting plenty of attention around the country, simply because one of the candidates is very good at using media, maybe better than anyone since Ronald Reagan. And it's been a long time since we've seen someone who can really get the reactions, even when media is not happy with him, that Donald Trump gets. It's 25 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I've got 52 on our way into the mid-60s today. There was a huge tornado that I just saw a picture of, apparently out somewhere in the Midwest. Well, it may be chilly here and not very spring-like, but I've experienced one tornado in my life that destroyed my business, and I just never care to see another one. It's one of those things that's like, okay, done that, been there, no need to go back there. This is James Carville, speaking of someone who's brewing up a storm, a former Clinton clan consigliere. He is speaking on MSDNC, and he's responding to some questions about Donald Trump, who he is actually, he was backing Ted Cruz. I don't know if you knew that or not, even though he's a lifelong Democrat. He was behind Ted Cruz. But he was telling a reporter at MSDNC that he thinks Donald Trump is impervious to criticism.
He really doesn't care. He just plows on. I think the Christian thing is causing him harm, but the 42% of the people in the country don't really care if he tells the truth or not. They think we're all lying anyways.
Yeah. Well, that's because pretty much you are. Mr. Carville worked for two of the best liars in the business, the Clinton family, as we pointed out, Hillary and Bill, one of whom is actually running for president this year. Sometimes you wonder which one, but I guess they're both running because, as she said, when we were president once, so it's a co-presidency, you could have them back all over again. It's a bit like the return of Juan Perón and his family. We just get to do it all over again and then wonder why. It's like the alcoholic who says, I'll never get drunk again, and swears it off for 15 years. Then he goes out on a bender and he gets up in the morning with a terrible headache and says, oh, why did I do that all over again? Donald Trump is a teetotaler. Well, he doesn't even drink tea unless it's decaffeinated. Donald Trump has never had an alcoholic beverage in his life. I don't know if many people know that. He also does not use caffeine. And this is a guy who works about 20 hours a day. So he must have found something magical in the fact that he keeps his body clean and pure. Well, all right. And the clean and pure is not a word you often hear associated with him. He appeared on Bill O'Reilly's program last night on the Fox News channel. And he was asked to address President Obama's potty orders. That is, allowing men and women to use the girls' bathrooms and locker rooms at various schools, well, all schools around the country. Take a listen.
The amazing thing is so many people are talking about this now, and we have to protect everybody, even if it's one person. But this is such a tiny part of our population. Now, with that being said, protect everybody. But I would really leave it up to the states.
Do you have in your facilities, your hotels, do you have separate facilities for transgendered? Are you going to put those in?
No, we don't. No, we don't have that.
Are you going to put them in?
I hope not, because frankly, it would be unbelievably expensive nationwide. It would be.
But it's human rights.
Hundreds of billions of dollars. It would be. Well, I don't know about human rights. I can tell you that it would be an unbelievably expensive thing to do, and I think our country really wants to be spending money on other things in terms of let's build more buildings, let's create more jobs, let's do something. But that would be an unbelievably expensive situation to do, unbelievably. And frankly, the number of people we're talking about is really a small number.
Yes, very
Again,
small.
protect them, but it's a very, very small number.
Now, he brought up a point that I've been bringing up the last several weeks on this program because a couple of callers have mentioned it. Just build a third bathroom, leave one toilet in it, put a lock on the door. But if you're going to every small business in America, which is already overregulated and overtaxed, and telling them add another bathroom, knock out some walls, bring in some contract, some of these people will not be able to stay in business. Trump just addressed that. And I'm glad that he brought that up because I think this is the next step from the angry left is they're going to try. For every person who's, left-handed or got a hangnail, we're going to have to make special accommodations. And and since they don't care about your business, as President Obama said, you didn't build that. Big deal. So what if we put a few more people out of business and all of the staff out of work? Well, we'll just give them some food stamps and everything will be okay. And don't worry about all the money it'll cost. We'll just print more. Or borrow it from China, which, by the way, the Obama White House is getting ready, geared up to go to war with. What happens if we go to war with them? Then they call our note. I've got more on this subject in your telephone calls coming up, but I've got a hard break, and I can't avoid that. It's 53. Bill Colley with you at 9:30 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. Talking a little bit about this potty situation again this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. Got to get to a couple of notes about this in just a minute. I've got them right here in front of me, but I do want to mention if you're listening to the program this morning, thank you. If you're having difficulty listening to the program, then you need to be in touch with Dr. Christine Pickup. She's a doctor of audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology in Rupert. By the way, she is now the only locally owned independent hearing healthcare practice in southern Idaho. And we'd like to remind you, with advances in healthcare, people are now living longer and often healthier lives. However, cognitive decline continues to be a major concern. People with hearing loss have a much greater risk of developing cognitive decline, which can lead to dementia. The greater the loss, the greater the risk. Keeping your hearing healthy is an important part of overall wellness. Knowing your hearing status and doing something about it can lead to a better, healthier life as you age. Now is the time, in fact, to schedule a hearing evaluation. You can call Mount Harrison Audiology for an appointment today, 208-312-0957. This is a headline from the Daily Caller today. New York City lets you choose from 31 different gender identities. One of my old bosses is now working and living in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he said it's like Baskin-Robbins for your genitalia. Was his comment this morning on my Facebook page when he saw the story. Individuals living in New York can choose from the minimum, that's a minimum, so there could be more, of 31 gender identities. Many of them which, they allow them to fluctuate between some version or combination of male or female identities. So that way, you may wake up some days and your name may be Johnny, but you may think that you're Jenny. But, later in the day, you could think you're Johnny again, or you could think you're It, or Shim, or whatever this would be described as. Businesses that don't respect and accommodate an individual's chosen gender identity risk incurring six-figure fines under rule, we told you about this last week, implemented by the city's Human Rights Commission. Well, what if you don't know? What if you've got a customer who comes in every day and like a chameleon keeps changing colors? And so one day he comes in and he's Johnny and you can call him Mr., but the next day he's Jenny. You got to call him Ms. or Miss or Mrs. or whatever. And then the next day he comes in and he's not sure. What do you do? And I said, I'm probably already in trouble for doing that. Here are some of the options. You could be a gender bender, a two-spirit, a third sex, you could be androgynous, or gender gifted. That's a bit like Donald Trump. Or pangender. Those are just some of the choices that you have. Are you supposed to walk around with a list that you can put on your forehead so the guys at the businesses know which one you are that particular day? And then do they have to memorize all these to get a business license so that they will not make a mistake? How about this? The Christian Post. Canada may ban anti-transgender speech with 2 years in prison. Canada's Liberal government, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He speaks English, but He's descended from French Canadians. That's where that Trudeau name comes from. And if you've ever wondered if all these problems people are having with identity were genetic, you probably would have to go to France and find out, because I think that, well, all of the French army, guys serving in the French army back in 1940 just threw up their hands and told the Germans to take them as women or whatever they wanted to take them as. So it's raised some questions ever since then. It says he has introduced a bill that would ban transgender discrimination, including both gender identity and gender expression, with up to 2 years in prison for violators. Now, these are the same people. This is the same country where they club baby seals. I'm sorry, but you can club a defenseless baby seal on a beach or on the Rocky coastline, but you cannot look at someone cross-eyed, a guy who's wearing a women's dress. The bill seeks to amend the Canadian Criminal Code to expand existing hate speech prohibitions to include any public speech or communication that, quote, promotes hatred, unquote, on the basis of gender identity or gender expression, and also the Canadian Human Rights Act to cover transgender people. In July, Prime Minister Trudeau plans to march in the Toronto Gay Pride Parade. Okay. Well, maybe there's something he's not telling us. Michelle Obama sure liked him, and I guess she's going to be a little surprised. A Christian Post has this as well. Pro-gay group has now come out and said this is wrong. Now, this is where it starts to show you that there are some people, a homosexual is not the same as transgendered, and some people in that one community called gay or lesbian sometimes are a little conservative, and they're getting fed up with all this baloney too. Youth Trans Critical Professionals, a group of psychologists, social workers, doctors, medical ethicists, and academics who identify as pro-gay rights and left-leaning, say vulnerable children are being recruited online to believe they are transgender, and mental health professionals are affirming the belief of these victims. So this is a group made up of people who aren't straight. Let me put it that way. But they're even saying that a lot of this is wrong and that we're going in the wrong direction. Shouldn't that be a little bit of an alarm bell going off for us? Speaking of alarms, it says, we are alarmed by the trend among mental health pros to affirm a young person's self-diagnosis as transgender with minimal exploration. In many cases, these young people come to identify as trans after binges on social media. There is evidence that vulnerable young people are being actively recruited and coached on such sites to believe they are trans. Well, when the folks in that movement warn you that this is out of control, we better take notice. 20 minutes away from 10 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story. It's 53. You're listening to News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com.